tangu mpaka sasa mpaka wali
mambo na biashara nimelea unaweza anza maisha ikiwa chini na ukakuja pia na ukawa Mcharo au investor
kabisa. Sasa kwenda mbele ungetaka kuona nini kiendelea?
Kuendelea nataka kuwa sababu venye mmenisaidia na wewe saidike kama mimi anaendelea kujenga manyumba tofauti na sisi pia tuwe tutainuka tuwe kama watu fulani.
Sawa. Onyango.
Yes.
Ndio?
Yes.
Onyango. Hello Onyango.
Yeah.
So you can introduce us with your name and tell us at which department you work at.
Yeah.
And also when you started and how it has been.
Yeah. My name is Onyango Jared. I've been working 90 degrees in the past. Today I'm very happy because I learned many things about Sabo. Yeah.
And how has it been working at Sabo?
I've seen it is very nice to stay in Sabo. Everything is right in Sabo. So I learned many things that if we come together, we can go together.
And then where do you want to see yourself and Sabo in the next couple of years?
I want to be so far.
Yes.
Very far.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pato?
Yes.
Ndio.
Pato. Fiti sana. Nafanya 90. Yes. Kazi. Nimeanza mwezi ya pili. Hii mwaka.
Tangu kwanza kwa majina naitwa Simon Wanyama. Kwa sasa niko na miezi miwili. Kwa cheko. Na naona kazi iko sawa. Kabisa.
Yeah. Na tangu anza kufanya kazi nini tofauti umeona na hii?
Okay, kile nimeona tofauti na hii place. Kwanza naona building iko sawa na hata pia inaendelea kujengwa. Soon najua kuna lift itawekwa na nitafurahia nikiona ikiwa smart kwa sababu nikiona kwa picha hapo nje maua najua itakuwa sawa. So nashukuru pia ikiwa sawa. Yeah.
Na mkijayo unataka Sabo kusaidia. Unataka umkubwa.
Kwa sababu ndio nimejua kuanzia miezi miwili hii. Najua huko mbeleni nitakuwa sawa kupitia kwa hii sawa. Yeah,
utakuwa sawa
kabisa. Yeah, kabisa.
Asante sana.
Shukuru.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have these sessions, and I pray today will be an engaging session. We will discuss due diligence and just seek to learn from one another what is due diligence, and especially when it comes to real estate. We can start with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Our dear Father, we come before you this evening. We thank you for life, we thank you for good health, and we thank you for just keeping us well and allowing us to have this opportunity to just share and to learn from one another. I pray that you will be with us. I pray for your wisdom. I pray for your guidance. I just pray that this session will be really a successful session, and we will all learn and be better. In Jesus' name I pray and believe. Amen. 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 Thank you very much. I think we can start, and thanks for always joining in. You can imagine how lonely it can be when you're having a session like this and you know, there are no people sort of joining. I can see Nguhi Mturi, thank you. You're our #1 fan. Thank you. We hope to learn together. Yeah, I can only see Nguhi Mturi for now. So we can start. We are going to discuss due diligence. First, we'll just start by defining what is due diligence. Where is it applicable? I'll possibly share some of just examples from our personal lives. We always share our story to make it real. What are some of the instances where we did do proper due diligence and things went well, or we did not do any due diligence and we burnt our fingers? Then we'll come back to Savo and really look at, as an investor in real estate, what should you be looking out for? And we'll be discussing about 10 things to look out for when you're investing in real estate from a due diligence perspective. We'll then engage, I'd like to hear from you guys, what's been your experience? You know, have we been doing proper due diligence? Do we understand what it is? Maybe if you've had a bad story like I have, maybe you can also share, you know, a time when you didn't do proper due diligence and things didn't go very well. And at the very end, we'll just touch on, despite, you know, the challenges of investing, and especially investing in off-plan, are there benefits? Are there benefits of investing in off-plan? Okay, so due diligence is really just a process of finding out information and establishing that the facts that are presented to you are the actual facts. We know human beings. I mean, there are many times someone can tell you X, but reality is different. So due diligence is just a process of investigating the facts as presented to you and making sure, are they the real facts, and are you comfortable with proceeding on with a decision based on the facts that you have received? So it applies in very many spheres of life. I'll give you an example. We are here looking for a cleaning company, and many companies have provided us with their profiles. But in the process of us doing our own due diligence, we have discovered some had lied, you know, saying, I've offered this service here, but that is not true. So even when you're looking for a service provider, it's important that you just do your own investigation to understand, are the facts that they're presenting to you really, really true? Are they overstating their experience? Are they lying, explicitly lying, or exaggerating the truth? So just finding out that information for yourself. I remember when, in our early days, even when you're hiring and you're getting people to work for you, something as simple as, I have a degree in X from X university. It's important to check. When Emily says she went to this university and did XYZ, did she really go to that university? Because we know that there are a lot of people who lie when it comes to presenting who they are. And you lie to be able to get a certain gain or to be able to get a certain benefit. Yeah, so if you're the other person on the other table who needs to make that decision, it's important that you just take maybe a bit of time to investigate, to audit, and to really, really know the facts for yourself. The first time I heard of the word due diligence, I was working for Stanbic, and Stanbic was in the process of merging with CF Stanbic Bank, and that was a huge due diligence process. I think it took about a year or so, because now when you're coming to financial decisions like those are big decisions. So there's a lot of auditing that needs to happen. There's a lot of investigations that need to happen, so that by the time you're then signing on the dotted lines, you know the real facts, right? So that's due diligence. Let me see, Eric Karani, thank you for joining. I can see Sally. Sally is one of us. Thanks, Sally, for joining us. Oh, there's a lady called Gaki who has also joined. Abed, thank you. Thank you, Gaki. Gaki is one of our investors. Sally is just welcoming the people who have joined. Thank you. Now, I'll share some of our examples of our lives. What have we done? What are some of the decisions we've made, Mcharo and I, that we have followed a proper due diligence process, and what are some that we haven't followed a proper due diligence process? Let me start with a simple one. So some time back, Mcharo wanted to buy me a car, and I was very excited. It was a Mac. It was in those days when he was not living a life of optional poverty. And fortunately, when he was just doing the checks, he realized that there's a chassis number in the logbook, and that chassis number did not correspond to the chassis number that is actually in the car. I'm not sure whether it's a chassis number or an engine number, one of the two. And just because of that, he didn't buy that car. And his argument was there's a possibility that something might have, there's a game that might have been played. Maybe either the logbook was not the real logbook of that car, or there was just something. And of course, you can imagine how unhappy I was, because here was an opportunity for me to get a very good car, and that didn't come along because of that. And Mcharo, I mean, it took him so long for him to even reconsider that decision. So that's one instance where he followed proper due diligence. And I think the decision the decision worked in our favor. I'll share another example, and this is with land transactions. And now that comes very close home. Some time back, a group of his friends wanted to buy land in Lamu. And so they called him and told him they want him to join. So it was a group of people buying a whole ranch in Lamu. And everyone was supposed to contribute a certain amount of money. And somehow Mcharo was extremely excited about the idea. And he convinced me, he told me, let's go ahead. We had not seen a copy of the title. We didn't even know whether a title existed. We hadn't seen that copy of our title. To date, we don't know the exact location of that land. So does it exist? Does it not exist? I don't know. And that was many years back, maybe possibly 7, 8 years ago. To date, we have nothing to show for that investment. We don't know where the land is. We don't have a copy of the title. We don't even have, if it is a scheme, we don't have like a share certificate. We have absolutely nothing. And why did that happen? And it was a lot of money, because I think we spent about $1 million. When he told me about it, being the risk-averse person I am, I called our lawyer. Some of us know Fidel. Fidel is our lawyer. At that time, he was working for Anjawala. I called him and asked him, Fidel, there is this opportunity, and Mcharo is convinced that we should go ahead and invest. What do you think? So he told me, Emily, unless you follow the proper due diligence process, get a copy of a title, let's do a search, let's understand who's behind this transaction. Before you do that, I would advise that you don't go ahead. I was like, okay, good advice. Then I went and spoke to somebody else who was my colleague. And I asked him, I mean, he was someone a bit senior in the bank, a guy who was in credit. He knew what he was doing. I think he'd done a number of these deals before. So I went to him and said, there's this opportunity. What do you think I should do? This is what my husband says. This is what the lawyer says. What do you think we should do? And he told me, unfortunately, Emily, if you have to follow the proper due diligence process, some good opportunities might escape you. An opportunity that is good, something that you can buy for a good price, you'll not be able to buy it for a good price if you follow the entire due diligence process. So sometimes you just have to decide to take the risk and go ahead. The young person I was at the time decided to go ahead with this advice. And why? Because he encouraged me that I'll possibly get a very good deal, because I'm not following the due process, and it's a deal. People call it deals. They come. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. It seemed so at the time. Of course not. So if you take your time and say you have to do due diligence, it will pass you by. So what do you do? What do you do when such opportunities present themselves to you? Do you go ahead? And really, 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 are there opportunities of a lifetime? Like it can't repeat again. It's either now or never. I don't think so. So to date, it's like that money is lost. We don't know. We don't know what will become of that transaction. I shared this with Michael, my son, today, and then he looked at me and said, Mom, you can also make such a stupid decision. In his eyes, it's just really a stupid decision. Especially given that I actually sought legal advice and went against legal advice. Yeah. So that's one land transaction that really didn't go well. A second one was not of that magnitude. I think it was half the amount. We have student hostels. So anytime we hear of an opportunity of land near a university, it gets exciting. And so at home, there's a university called JKUAT in Taita, and there was land like right outside the gate. and it was a very good deal. The only caveat is the owners did not have a title again, and we went ahead and bought that land a while back as well. And I remember we went there with my sister-in-law, Frida, and I think our cousins also knew about it. And surprisingly, it's Mcharo and I who ended up buying that land. My sister-in-law didn't buy. and I think our cousins bought somewhere in that vicinity, not opposite the university, but somewhere in that general area. And they were able to build because they bought land that had a title. They already went ahead and built, and they've been earning income from that space for a long time now. But Mcharo and I, what did we do? We wanted to be right at the gate, and didn't really consider that this land didn't have a title. We knew it's just a matter of time. You know what? These people can't corner us. It will be okay. But to date, we don't even go there anymore, because what are you going to do? You can't get the title. You can't build. You can't do anything with that land, really. Now there are squatters. I think there are people who are squatting in that space, and there's absolutely nothing we can do. And those are because of gaps in the due diligence process. Either an opportunity looks like it's too good to be true, it will not come again, and so you want to jump in. Or you just decide to go against everything you know about what due diligence is. So those have been our experience around due diligence. So I'll be happy to really hear some of our stories, even before we go to real estate. Let me just look here. Let me see. Oh, honey, Mr. Mcharo is here. Karibu sana. Mariam Gateri, karibu. Very many of us have joined. Patience, karibu sana. A critical topic in discussion today, especially with plots for sale, offers all over. My son, apparently he didn't say stupid. He respects me. I can't remember which word he used, but close to that. So Bongosa Mcharo is my son. Evans are willing to absorb, are we willing to absorb the risk? That's a question. Mr. Mcharo, my decisions around land were really dumb, money moves. I bought using emotions, very stupid and costly mistakes. That was my dumb money moves season. We are wiser now. Yes, honey, that is true. We are now a bit wiser. We wouldn't do that. Evans sounds like emotions and logic conversation. And what should win, Evans? I think logic should always win. If it's an investment decision, logic should always win and not emotions. Yeah? Let me look on this other side. Kwechengeno, thanks for joining. Sherry, watching from Machakos. Karibu sana, Sherry. Yes. So now we can go ahead and talk about investing in real estate, especially when it's off plan. Yes, due diligence is important when it's investing in real estate, yes. But when it's off plan, it's a lot more critical. And why is that? When you're investing off plan, especially if the project hasn't kicked off, you're investing in an idea. So, drawings have been made and there's this, very good plans. Possibly the land is very specific, but there's nothing for you to see and touch at that point. So it is more crucial that you do your due diligence properly when you're investing off plan. Yes, even if it's a complete project, you still need to do your due diligence, but it's more critical when it is off plan. Before the developer has broken ground, and even after, even when it's on first floor or second, whatever level the project is at, it is very important for us to do our due diligence. And I really hope this conversation, our investors will be listening in, because it's my encouragement even to our investors that you actually do your due diligence when you're investing in Savo, and even when you're considering investing in another project. So when you're interacting with, in Savo we call them F.I.R.E partners, and these are our sales, the team that does the selling. We call them F.I.R.E partners, and that is Financial Independence, Retire Early, that's F.I.R.E, and then they're your partner in that journey. So when you're interacting with our F.I.R.E partner, that in itself is already the beginning of the due diligence process. So who are you talking to? Is this person knowledgeable about whatever product it is that they're trying to sell to you, right? What is their response time? How is that interaction like? So even just from that initial interaction, that's a process of due diligence, right? Now we'll go to the 10 things that you should look at. The first thing is, who is the developer? So when you hear you want to invest, when you're considering investing with Savo, it's very important to ask yourself, who is Savo? And Savo can't be just the name, right? So there are people who are behind Savo. Who are the shareholders of Savo, or any other developer for that matter? Who are the shareholders? Once you have established who are the shareholders, and you can establish the shareholders by looking at, there's a document called CR12. CR12, for any company, it's able to give you who are the shareholders of that company and who are the directors of that company. So it's very important to know that this company is owned by XYZ. Once you've established who XYZ is, then you start asking yourself, what is this person's story? What is their investment journey? What has been their career journey? Is this just somebody who has, suddenly appeared and they are now a developer? What is their journey? Because I think appreciating a person's journey allows you to know that person more, allows you to, even in a sense, start gauging what's their integrity like. And when you look at a person's career, it's possible to see what's been the progress of this person, even in their career. The other thing you can look at when you're looking at the developer, what's their profession, for example. I usually say, are they members of any professional body, right? So for example, Mr. Mcharo is an architect. That means that he's a member of AAK, and that for him is a very, very important sort of professional body that he belongs to. And even knowing that starts to help you know, is this person a person who would want to maintain a good name? Or is this someone who would be very quick to let their name, to not stand with their name, with the credibility of their name? For example, on my side, I'm a member of I'm a chartered financial analyst. I mean, a qualification that took so long to get. And so would I want the CFA to take away my charter just because of being a bit shady? I highly doubt I would want to do that. So those are some of the things you look at when you're thinking about who is this developer? What's their credibility? What is their track record? What's been their journey? What's been their career journey? What's been their investment journey? Just to know who exactly are you dealing with. Recently, we had an incident where a supplier had done something for us, and I think we started having challenges with the service. And we were busy trying to figure out who is the real owner of that company. And in my head, I was just like, there we dropped the ball when it comes to due diligence, because we were not very clear. We couldn't even say it's person X, let's go to person X. So that's a failure in due diligence. So it's always important that when you're engaging any developer, you try your very best to actually know who is really behind this company. I think it's also important to even visit the developer's office. You've heard of briefcase companies. So it's important to even go and visit. Go to the office and just visit and see who are these people and where is their office, and what do they represent. Even when you go to the office, the interaction you will have with the people you meet will tell you a lot about that developer. The other thing you must do is, so I tell you to come, for example, now we are selling the project on Wanye Road is called Savo Skywalk. And you were interested to invest in Savo Skywalk, but it's off plan. So the next question to ask yourself is has this developer done anything else previously? What's their track record in terms of development now? So do they have another project that they have done? Have they completed another project? Can I go and visit? Because when you now go and visit, in our case, maybe you come here, we are in Coral Bells, come to Coral Bells and see. Or even go to Rongai and see your laser place in Rongai, or even Embakasi. So you go and look at the project that this developer has done and completed. You'll be able to see the quality, you'll see the quality of finishes, you'll see the materials that were used. You can even ask questions. What were the timelines? Was this project done in 5 years? Was it done in 15 months? What time did it take for this project to be completed? And I think immediately you see that, because the off-plan project, perhaps you cannot see it today, but seeing the projects that this developer has done and completed and executed well, that will give you the confidence to want to, you know, it will give you the confidence to sort of like be sure this person has done it before, so they're knowledgeable, they have the track record, and therefore they'll be able to execute well the new project that you're interested to invest in. Yeah, I don't want to talk a lot. Let me look if there are any questions. I can see Martha. Thanks, Martha, for joining. And Martha is just welcoming us to the F.I.R.E tribe. Let's see on this other side. Tony Omondi. Okay, before I speak, there's a comment here from Gaki. Bought land without checking infrastructure plans on the land. Found out too late in the transaction that high voltage electricity lines were mapped to cross the land. Lost 1.2 acres of the 5-acre piece. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Gaki, for sharing that. Again, due diligence. And this is not even something I had maybe even highlighted for us. Are there any, she said high voltage electricity lines. How many of us, I mean, and that's why it's very important to share, because something like that, I hadn't even thought about it. Yeah, so something else to look out for. I'm wondering, in addition to electricity lines, what else could pass through a parcel of land that would make it not commercially viable, so to speak? If you have any ideas, please share with us. Angie tuned in, thank you. Mcharo, thank you for joining us. Betty, watching from London. Oh, thanks, Betty. Nice to have you here. Tony Omondi. Okay, let me read Tony's comments. Hello, I have introduced a friend to Savo, but they have been put off by legal fees for their second apartment with Savo. I've also been charged legal fees twice. Let me give the analogy of selling a car. If I want to sell my car, I'm responsible for all the costs of bringing the car to the market, including the cost of drawing the contract. Why should this be different? Okay. So Tony Omondi, I'll just park your question. I'll try to remember to answer it later. Guys, you'll just remind me so that we stick to this, and then I'll try to answer that. Chari Bongosa, that's my sister. Thanks, Chari. Billionaire, hi Savo team. I'm tuned in and ready to learn the very important topic. Yes, and then Sally, check the company's CR12, check the background of the owners, visit the office. Yes, thank you, Sally. I'll remember, Tony, to come back to your question. Let me see on this other side what we have. There is Emma, yeah. Mr. Mcharo, again, never convince yourself to invest if the data says your money is not safe. Thank you. So we can proceed, but I'll come back to Tony Omondi's question. The other thing you can look out for is, are there any, do you know anyone who has invested in that company? So you're just looking for who else has invested there and what was the experience? For example, if you came to us and you wanted to speak to any of our investors, we possibly introduce you to our investor who invested in Laser, which was our very first project, or Embakasi, because they have seen the journey from breaking ground. Perhaps we have finished the construction, and now we are actually managing the property on their behalf. So it is important to speak to a person like that. And they would honestly just tell you what their experiences have been. We always tell our investors to be our harshest critics. So you'll find if the person was not happy with a certain process, they will tell you there's this part of this process that I was not happy with. Yeah? And as they're telling you that, that's feedback that they've probably already shared with us. So just finding testimonials and just sort of like trying to learn from the people who have already invested with us. I think that's also very, very important. Now, I had already talked about visiting the developer's office, visiting prior projects, but even more important is visiting the project you want to invest. this is interesting. There are investors who invested in coral belts, but either due to work schedule, they never came to coral belts. And we finished building and they received a call that said, you have a tenant. One of our investors, his name is Hillary, you have a tenant. And he's like, Emily, I already have a tenant. I don't know where coral belts is. And for him, he was glad that that was a good story for him. But is that ideal? Perhaps not. I think the ideal scenario is you try and visit. Try and visit that particular location, even before you have put in your money, so that you know exactly where it is. So try and visit. It may take time. It will take time off your schedule. It might be costly in one way or another, but I think it's very important that you visit. Sometimes you're in the diaspora or you're out of Nairobi and you're not able to visit. Send someone. Do you have a family friend that you trust? Do you have a family member or a friend that you trust? And you can send them over for them to come and see the actual location. I think that's very important. We'll now go to the legal sort of side. So again, you want to invest in this project. It's very important. You already know the developer. It's very important to ask yourself, does this developer own the land? We have had in news, not once, not twice, instances where some people have put their money in a certain project and later on, somebody else has come and claimed that land, somebody other than the developer. And if you had already put your money there, then what happens to you? You kind of would have maybe lost a huge sum of money, which is unfortunate. So it's very important to just find out who actually owns this land. And it's possible to know. Once you've made a decision that you want to invest, you can ask for a copy of the title deed, and you should be given. And from the title deed, you'll be able to see that Savo is the owner or Savo Skywalk is the owner, who actually owns that parcel of land. And you can even go an extra mile and go to lands and do a search. And the search will tell you. So there's the name that is in the title. But if you did a search, the search would actually tell you, as per the records in the lands registry, the owner of this land is XYZ. And that gives you additional comfort that actually you're engaging with the legit owners. You're not engaging with people who are saying, we are the owners of this land, but really they are not the owners. Sometimes there could be a little bit of a delay in the transfer process, but that's something that the lawyer can take you through and explain to you what's happening in terms of the transfer process. But it's possible to establish who exactly is the owner of a particular parcel of land before you engage. I think if you're investing in real estate, the land is the mother and the title deed is the mother of it all. So if the land is not in the name of the developer or the transfer process is not ongoing, you will have started on the wrong footing. And again, tomorrow you don't know what would happen. It's similar to the examples that I have shared, that we didn't check the title. We didn't know who is the owner of that land. And for the second example, there was actually no title deed issued. And without the title deed, there's absolutely nothing you can do, even if you claim ownership of a parcel of land. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about approvals. A lot of these projects or these developments, it's not possible to proceed if you don't have approvals. So you have approvals from City Council, you have approvals from NEMA, you have approvals from NCA. These are the government bodies that then just give the developer a go-ahead to continue with the development. And if the developer does not have these approvals, then it's possibly just a matter of time and they will start experiencing challenges with the government, with the authorities. Sometimes there could be a bit of a delay and maybe you've been given a letter to proceed as the final approval is coming out. That happens, but at least the process has started and it's just a matter of time and the developer will get that approval. So it's important to also ask those questions. And sometimes it's also good to speak to the lawyers of the developer. You can call the lawyer and just say, I'd like you to just tell me about this project. And a lot of times you'll find the most knowledgeable person around the legal process would be the lawyer, because the project always has a project lawyer. And that lawyer will be able to take you through, what have they done, what are the steps they've put in place, what are the documents that you can look at, and they'll just be able to guide you through the process. The FIRE partner on our side does that as well. They have a good understanding. Of course, they're not lawyers, but they have some basic understanding around the process. And they can take you through the legal process as well. Yeah? But yes, that's the importance of due diligence. Let me see if you have any questions. On this side, a number of us have joined. Thank you. Karemi, government infrastructure such as roads and railways that may have future plans to pass through there. Yes, I had asked a question about if anybody knows, what are some of the other things to look out for. Thanks, Karemi, for sharing that. James Moreithi, healthy discourse, Eagle. Eric Ochieng is in UK, London, listening in. Thank you very much, Eric. Yeah, so thank you, guys. Let me see if there's something else. Have you ever asked yourself, what do I need to do before I decide on who I should invest with? Oh, that's something from Savo. Let's check this side as well. Okay. Sally, hi Tony. Sally is one of us. We would encourage you to get in touch with us so that we can see how else to tailor make the total purchase price. Okay, I think there's a question there that Tony had. Oh, that's Tony Omondi. Okay, yes, Tony, please. I think Sally will be able to help us there. Betty Ouma. Some companies tick all these boxes, but down the line, grid creeps in and things change. So in such a case, how do we do due diligence? I think, Betty, when you enter into a contract, let's say, and your purchase price is a certain amount, that's already a contract. And that purchase price should not change. So even when you're saying somebody becomes greedy later, if the purchase price had already been done, and the next thing I was going to talk about is the agreement for sale. You have already done your agreement for sale that specifies a certain purchase price. That should not change. And something as fundamental as the price, if that is going to change, that is a breach of the contract. So that contract then becomes invalid. Yeah? So the purchase price should not change later after you have entered into a contract. And maybe as I talk about this agreement for sale, I just need to remember to mention that there are times when, as an investor, you invest, but you don't go the whole way to actually sign your agreement for sale. But it's very important that you actually do. Because if you do, then the provisions of the agreement for sale become binding for both you and the developer, right? And that guards you against, the increase in price, if at all. And then billionaire, there is a wise advice about due diligence that says, measure twice, then cut once. Oh, nice. Doing due diligence is an important step, especially when dealing with assets that are not liquid. So he says, measure twice, then cut once. So take your time to really do your due diligence before you actually take the next step. And I think to just agree with billionaire, it can look expensive, it can be time consuming, it can be inconveniencing, but it is very critical that we do due diligence. Sarah Njeri, oh, that's my friend. For those in the diaspora, send family or friends. Yes, very important. Even if you're in the diaspora, don't decide to go ahead and invest just because you're not in the country. You can send someone that you trust. And this person can even ask for you some of these questions you're talking about. Yeah, Sarah, listening to you as I pick up my daughter from school here in Yorkshire. Thanks for giving us your insight. Thanks, Sarah. Sally, hi, Betty. This is very common. However, you can involve. Sally has answered Betty. Thanks, Sally. Sally is one of us. Sally, again, get feedback. Thank you, Sally. I don't need to repeat that. Tony Omondi is asking for Sally's email address. Sally, please provide it. Let me check Instagram. Munani, a very important topic for discussion today. Looking forward to learn. Thanks. When doing due diligence, check the shareholders and developers of the company through. Where is the office? Where is their office? Does the developer have a track record? Very important. And then D has said, is this Diana? The search also confirms if there are any encumbrances on the land. So thank you very much, Diana. For example, remember the example that Gaki had mentioned that she bought land and there was a high voltage power, something passing through the land, if you did a search, it would be able to tell you that. A lot of times, I'm not sure if it is in all instances, but it should. Also, if the owner of the land has borrowed, so for example, if it is Coral Bells and we've given you a copy of a title and you went and did a search, if we had borrowed using that title, and therefore that title is charged to a particular bank, the search would show. It would show that this title is charged to a particular bank. And that's what we are calling an encumbrance. So again, very, very important to go the extra mile to even do the search. Maybe someone will ask, how do I do a search? Two things. If you know any lawyer, they can't be able to do a search for you. When you come to us and possibly you're engaging with our lawyer, you can request our lawyer for a search. And that will be a starting point for you, because even if that search is done by our lawyer, it's a starting point to show you what are the provisions, what are the records at the registry. So a lawyer can actually do a search for you and give it to you. And it should be valid, even that. I'm not sure if as an individual, like you're not a lawyer, if you can just go to the registry and do a search. Maybe Diana, you can tell us. I'm not sure whether that is possible. Now, again, it's important to understand the investment process and the ultimate ownership documents that you will receive. So at the beginning, so you've come, you're interested in Savo, in a project, maybe you're interested in Savo Skywalk. So you have spoken to a FIRE partner, and the FIRE partner has probably shared with you the various options. What are the units that are available? You have taken time, you have gone to Savo Skywalk, and you have seen the actual location. You have taken time, you have gone round, you have seen a project in Dindigwa, you have seen the other one in Laser, you've seen a couple of projects. So even from a quality perspective, you know what to expect. You've seen, this is the kind of quality of house that I would expect to get at the very end. And then you've made a decision and said, I feel comfortable to go ahead and invest. And I'm investing in a particular unit. I'm investing in a studio, or I'm investing in a one-bedroom. So at that point, the FIRE partner will request for your documents. There's no way we can, sort of like get into an agreement with you without knowing what's your ID, give us a copy of your ID, give us a copy of your PIN number, and, just your details, your email address, your postal address, and things like that. So once we have those documents, we will go ahead and prepare an agreement for sale for you. And that is the binding contract between yourself and us. So the agreement for sale is a very important document. And I want to go very slowly here. Why is this document important? It states very clearly, who are you getting into contract with? So it states very clearly, who is the vendor? Who is the developer? You as Emily, who are you getting into contract with? That's one. Number two, it tells you what are the roles and the responsibilities of each party. What are the roles of the developer? The developer has a responsibility to build. He's building and selling to you a studio or a one-bedroom. It actually specifies the unit number. It's A102 or whatever number it is. It goes ahead to say this project will be done within this time frame. So it makes it easier for you to know, okay, I'm investing in this off-plan project, I'm going to get it in 2 years' time, or I'm going to get it in 15 months' time. So by December of 2021, this project should be complete. So it states the timelines, exactly what are the timelines within which the project should be done. And then it also states your responsibilities as the investor. What are your responsibilities? Perhaps one of your responsibilities is to make sure that you make your monthly payments. And what are your monthly payments? It's something that you would have discussed with your FIRE partner. Like, for example, we have a very flexible payment plan where you can pay within a year, 2, 3, all the way up to 5 years. So you would have chosen a payment plan that works for you. This is the deposit you pay, and this is how you're going to spread your monthly payments. So that will be very clearly stated in the agreement for sale. So it's very important that at least you read it, because then it gives you a lot of clarity of what are your responsibilities and what are the developer's responsibilities. I think at the very end, there's something around what are the ownership documents that you're going to get. So ultimately, the house is done. But even if you have the house and you don't have your ownership documents, you can't claim ownership of that house. So at the very end, you're going to get a sublease, which is which is equivalent to the title deed. So you're going to get a sublease for your unit. You're going to get a share in the management company. You're going to become a shareholder in the management company. So those are the two ownership documents that you're going to get. So the agreement for sale is important in that sense because it just stipulates for you the contract you're entering to, who you're entering into the contract with, what are the roles and responsibilities of each, what happens when either of us do not meet our end of the bargain. I'm supposed to build. What if I don't build within the specified timelines? What should I do? Should I ask for an extension? What happens? Yeah, it tells you what are your ownership documents at the very end. And it also provides for termination. What happens if somehow in the middle we don't agree? Somehow in the middle you want to be able to exit for one reason or another. What happens? I think the one thing I would like to mention in Savo is, especially if somebody is struggling financially and we've had discussions and they totally feel they're not able, at least we have alternatives of what can happen, like move to another project that will possibly give you a longer time to pay, or renegotiate your payment plan from 1 year to 5 years. So we have options like that. But in the event that you ultimately cannot completely continue with the contract, there's a provision that allows for you to sort of exit that contract. So the agreement for sale is an extremely important document, and it's wordy, it's long, but if you're able to just read it through, together with the FIRE partner, they can take you through, and you'll be able to understand some of the clauses. Perhaps not to the detail of how the lawyer understands it, but to the detail that is required for you to understand the transaction that you're getting into. So it's very important, and I'll just re-emphasize, it's very important to really, really go through the agreement for sale. Yeah? And it's possible to even call the lawyer. It's possible to call the project lawyer and ask for a sit down and just request that they take you through. Some clauses might be a bit difficult. Maybe 1, 2, 3 clauses might be a bit difficult. But it's possible to go to the lawyer and say, please, I'd just like you to explain to me these clauses, so that by the time I am signing, I actually know what I'm getting into. I remember at the beginning when we were doing our first project, I called the lawyer many times because the one I'm not a lawyer I'm not a lawyer at all. So a lot of those things were also new for me. But I just took time to read, try and understand what I couldn't understand, call a second time and call a third time, until it got to a place where a lot of the clauses are now, perhaps I understand them very well now just because I've been interacting with it for a long time. But as an investor, it is possible. It is possible for you to just take the time to read it through and make sure you really understand and you have clarity before you go ahead and invest. Okay, we can look at some questions if we have some. Sally, get feedback from people who have, I think she's just reiterating what I've said. Sherry, where are we? The due diligence is also very expensive. It is charged as a percentage of the cost of the property. Okay. Sherry, maybe I would like to reach out to you to just understand that. I think maybe what Sherry means is the times when you might want to, other than using the project lawyer, get another lawyer who can then take you through. Just for, the independence, because the project lawyer has vested interest, I'd say. So you might want to get another lawyer who can take you through the due diligence process. And that lawyer will then do the search for you. They will read the agreement for you. They will tell you some of the clauses that maybe they are not happy with. Then you would engage the developer's lawyer to ask. So if you have to engage a lawyer like that, they will definitely charge you. It shouldn't be a percentage of the cost of the property. I think maybe LSK provides for like 2% of the cost of the property, but it is possible to negotiate. And especially because at the very end, this lawyer is not going to do the transfer process for you. Yeah, it's the project's lawyer who's going to do the transfer process on your behalf. So if you engage another lawyer to do for you due diligence, they shouldn't charge a percentage of the cost of the purchase price. But whatever it is they charge you, whatever you negotiate it to be, I think it's still a good cost to incur. At the beginning, you find some of our investors who come to us at the very, it's their first time to invest. The first time they will have their own lawyer who they will pay. But by the time they're coming a second and a third time, they've already gotten used to our processes. They already know what we do, how we do things, and therefore they don't need to go back to another lawyer. Yes. Thanks, Sherry, for that. Sally, that's great, and welcome. Ensure you follow us. Okay. Sally is just reiterating. Okay, Lucan Kasmir. My apologies, Lucan, if I've pronounced your name badly. From lease completion or payment of last installment at Savo, how long should we wait for transfer to be complete? Your lawyers are on the fence with this, as are not willing to include a date, implying we as investors can wait indefinitely, which doesn't make sense. This is something you need to revisit. Okay, allow me, Lucan, to just explain that a little. If you come to us and we're talking about construction period, we are able to do our project projections. We're able to do our Gantt charts, and based on our experience, we're able to say this project should take 18 months with a fairly good sort of level of certainty, because we are in control of that process. Okay, 1 minute. We are in control of that process, and we are able to manage the different moving parts. Now, when it comes to the lease, our intention is to try and do it as quickly as possible. However, I'll just try and explain to you the process of getting the lease and some of the things that are perhaps we will do best effort but are not fully in our control. The first thing is, once we finish the project, the lawyer must be able to get for us a government valuer. The valuer will come and assess the value of the property. After they've assessed the value of the property, they will then be able to determine how much stamp duty should the investors pay. Because stamp duty is 4% of the value of the property. So just the process of getting a government valuer even to come, I think we definitely have challenges with some of our government processes. That in itself can take a bit of time, number one. Number two, after that has happened and we've established how much stamp duty needs to be paid, we then come back to you, the investor, and say, you need to pay this much stamp duty. Perhaps you would have paid a certain portion, but in case there's a variance, we would have to come back to you and ask, kindly pay X amount. Then you pay. Once you pay, it needs to be paid to KRA. There's a capital gains process that needs to go on. Thereafter, then the lease registration process will begin. And the lease registration process happens at the lands registry. I'll give you an example of the season I've been, in the real estate space. Some of the things I have seen happening at the registry. I think more than twice, the registry has been closed because of, what is this called? Automation, right? So they're trying to automate their processes. They're trying to have like an online system, and that has taken a bit of time, and they close. And when the registry is closed, the registry is closed. There's absolutely nothing that the lawyer is able to do. So that takes time. That takes time, from the process, and it just, extends the process for a while. The other thing is, the registry has been closed because there is fumigation going on, or you've gone to the registry and the typewriter is not working. It's a process that can be quite painful, so to speak. In this COVID season, the registry has been closed for a better part of, since March. They are operating at very small scale, and sometimes they're totally closed. So because of that reason, this process, our lawyers are they would shy away from saying it will take 3 months. If everything was very efficient, this is something that can be done within a period of 3 months. But that said, we continue to request our lawyers to try and do it as fast as possible. You know, try to push the processes as much as they can. Where they're able to push, they try and push it as much as they can. And then any delays is just left to, you know, it's just left because there is absolutely nothing they can do. Registry is closed or some unforeseen circumstances like that. But it's not that they are being complacent in their work in any way. Yeah. Okay. I hope Lucan I've answered you. I'll be happy to maybe even chat with you later on that. Yeah. Let's go to Instagram. The search also okay. We read that. Monani, so true. Doing a search reveals a lot of information. Anyone can get a search at the land registry. So you can get a search as a citizen, as a Kenyan citizen. You do not need to be a lawyer to be able to get a search. You can be able to get a search just as a Kenyan citizen. Okay. Which is good news, because then you don't have to incur a cost to get the search. Then Diana, in Kenya, any contract for purchase of property must be in writing, hence the importance of the sale agreement. Yes, she's just emphasizing why the sale agreement is very important. Let me come back to YouTube and see if I have any questions. I think I have very many things here. Okay, let's see. How did you choose your construction company? Is it better to get a good foreman instead, especially for first timers? I'm not sure. Miriam, are you asking because you would like to build, and you're asking whether it's important that you should just get a good foreman instead of getting a construction company? Miriam, can I request that we reach out to you so that we answer your question specifically to meet your needs? I'm not sure I have understood, because you ask, is it better to get a good foreman instead, especially for first timers? I don't know. Mr. Mcharo, honey, if you're there, kindly help me answer Miriam. Evans, when investing in additional units in a project, what extra due diligence is recommended? Okay, so you've already invested in the first unit. So you've already gone through the process of seeing the land, seeing the unit, confirming the title, and now you're picking a second unit. I think the only due diligence that is required is the sale agreement, really, because you will possibly get a second sale agreement for any additional unit. But you would have already done the bulk of the due diligence for your first unit. So Ken is one of our lawyers. Let's see what he's saying. This is very informative and insightful. Best due diligence is best conducted by an experienced real estate advocate to ensure all boxes are ticked. DD will save you from many pitfalls. Yes, Ken. Mr. Mcharo, tips from Warren Buffett. Rule number 1, never lose your money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. However good the promised return and however large your appetite for risk, make due diligence mandatory. Yes, he's just encouraging us because, so rule number 1 is never lose your money. But for you to ensure you never lose your money, you must do a thorough due diligence. And by doing a thorough due diligence, you significantly reduce the risk of you losing your money. Thanks, honey, for that. Nguhi, take an example of Savo. If I invest in the Savo Skywalk, then the developer, whomever the title belongs to, engages the land for a loan or something. Do I, as an investor, have a say on that? Okay, so ideally, let me speak for Savo, so that I don't speak about other companies that I don't know. For us, once we have started a project, we do not borrow against that title. Okay, let me even put it differently. For all our projects, we do not have bank debt. So we don't borrow, and therefore all our titles are free. They are not encumbered. They are not charged to any bank. So in our situation, we know if I am building here, ultimately the owners of these units are my investors. And therefore, I should not put you at risk by going to the bank and borrowing against that title. So that's our situation, Nguhi. Other developers might do it differently. But for us, we do not borrow. So all our titles are not encumbered. And when you do the search, you will see it actually say no encumbrances. It's written in the search. But other developers, Nguhi, most actually borrow against the title. Yeah. Isaac, in case you would like to visit Savo completed project, feel free to reach out to us. Yes, Isaac is one of us, and he's just encouraging us to, again, visit the projects. Martha here, again, one of us. Hi, Miriam. We are the developers of our own projects. We don't outsource contractors, and this enables us to have shared goals and shared knowledge. Thanks, Martha. I think Martha has been able to answer Miriam's question. Ken, I would advise against using any lawyer, just like doctors who have different areas of specialization. Lawyers also specialize. I would encourage you to seek advice from a real estate lawyer. Okay, so we were talking about instances where you need to engage another lawyer to be able, oh, time has really gone. We're talking about instances where you need to engage another lawyer. And Ken is just advising us. Thanks, Ken, for the advice. If you have to engage another lawyer to help you in the due diligence process, do not engage just any lawyer, because there are lawyers who have expertise in litigation, you know, in different things. You should engage a real estate lawyer, someone who actually understands how the real estate processes work. Thanks, Ken. I think that's that. Martha, thank you for your comment here. Karemi, if the investor uses their own lawyer to do a search, is the legal fee still paid to the project lawyer? So the project lawyer is not paid for doing a search. So the project lawyer is paid for a lot more things over and above that. The project lawyer is paid to ensure that at the very end, you get your ownership documents. That process of registering the sublease on your behalf, that's the process where that's the process that the project lawyer is paid for. Yeah, Mr. Mcharo, Nguhi, we don't use the land. Oh, yeah, thanks, Hani, for helping me there. Ken, answering Sherry Didi is not expensive. Yes, thank you, patience. This topic takes me back to an incident of malls and apartments demolished because they were built on riparian land. Yes, another thing to check out for when you're doing due diligence. Where is the closest river from the project? Thanks for that. Mr. Ken, again, high patience, Didi would have helped. A good Didi would, you know, you'd get NEMA approval. So if you get NEMA approval should be able to state, you can't get NEMA approval if your land is on riparian land. Yeah? So if you do a good Didi, you'd be able to whatever that. Hani, thanks for answering Miriam. And then Karemi, if a developer borrowed against the title deed and it got repossessed by the bank, what would happen to the landlords who have acquired the units? Karemi, this is challenging. This is challenging. I think it then just becomes a long, protracted process between the bank and the owners of the units. I wouldn't advise. It really, really exposes the landlords, so to speak. There must be a way out of sorting it out, but definitely it would be challenging. Oscar, ultimately, as investors, rental property occupancy rate is critical part of DD. Yes, does Savo offer any information on the economic vacancy rates for their projects? So for us, I think time's up. Oscar, we try and do a thorough research before we start any project. And that research is just to help us understand what are the occupancy rates in that area, what are the rents that people charge in that area, and based on that information, we're able to know how to determine the rents for our units, and we're able to know whether that area is good enough for our projects. An area where occupancy rates are very low, we wouldn't touch. And we thank God that, you know, a place like Embakasi as an example, the rents we projected are the rents we got, and the occupancy rates have been very good. We hardly have like vacant units there. Coral Belts, we are still in the letting process, but we are more than, I would say, about 75% occupied for a project that was recently completed. So thank you. I'm sorry I won't be able to answer all the questions, but I hope we'll be able to come back and answer them later. It has been, I think, an important topic, possibly a bit more harder than other topics, but a very critical topic. My last comment is that due diligence can be time-consuming, it can be expensive, but it is critical that we go ahead and do it. Projects, it's easy to do properly, and you want to invest of you'll get a price that is much lower than if it was complete, and you'll be able to get a payment plan that allows you to pay over time, and therefore you don't need to go to the bank to borrow. We usually say that the money that you would have used to buy handbags and shoes and clothes and the bar, that is enough to pay for your unit on a monthly basis. So yes, even with the challenges, with proper DD, you should go ahead and invest in Upland once you've done your DD and done it properly. Thank you very much. May God bless you for joining us. Always a pleasure to be with you guys, and I wish that you please have a good night and a good weekend ahead. Thank you very much. Yes, karibuni sana next Friday.